Raise the banners, blow the horns. We have been victorious. BSG has given us everything we've asked for and more, and we should be happy. We should be grateful. We should be thankful that BSG finally listened to us. No, I would really love to say that that's going to be the energy through this whole video, but it's definitely not. We did get an update today, which I believe is going to be the final nail in the coffin, at least in BSG's eyes. I don't see them talking anymore about this because I honestly don't see them listening, and I don't see them listening any further, and I don't see them making any more changes. Unless something happens, I think this is what we got. So I decided to go straight to the Reddit, and we're just going to read it from the horse's mouth and let's go with it. So right off at the bat, one of the biggest issues with this whole thing was how Edge of Dark owners basically felt like we got shafted. And so right off the top, we're talking about the Edge of Darkness edition. But I want to start with actually the beginning and the end of our little masterpiece here, shall we say. And so, dear players, we have come to the following conclusions regarding the list of changes and additions to the various editions of the game. Feel free to give your feedback. Again, you're not really explaining, hey, BSG, why? Why are you just why are you giving us this? Do you feel bad? Is there are you a little apologetic maybe, or a little shame? You know, no, just feel free to give you the feedback. I'm not sure if you noticed that worrying about whether we feel free to not to give you feedback has not been a huge concern of ours at the time. So let's scroll down to the bottom. Let's talk about the end of this little departee, shall we? Thank you and have a great day, dev team. That signed by Nikita, the face of BSG, the one that we have all painted as the villain in this scenario. No, the faceless, unknown dev team. That's who we have to thank for this magnanimous response. Finally, after we've literally had to, as a community, tie a rope around them and pull them back because they weren't wanting to really walk back. Thank you and have a great day. How about we're sorry for our bad decisions, our greed and ineptitude. We're gonna do better. In the meantime, I hope this helps. Nikita. This is such a passive-aggressive, non-accountability. You have caused all of these issues yourself, and you're still being passive-aggressive about it. It is hysterical to me that you are so thin-skinned that you create your own problems, and you're still mad at the problems you created. Like, legitimately, nobody did this but you. We didn't do this. None of us woke up to your bullshit when that patch dropped and said, oh good, I was looking for a reason to be pissed off today. Like, I'm not sure if you've looked around. There's plenty of shit right now in this world to be really mad about. So the reason why we're passionate about this is because most of us, this was our way away from the insanity that is our everyday life. This is how we relaxed. This is how we disconnected. This is how we took the real life stressors that are on us 24/7, constantly. This is a place where we could park that shit to the side for 5 minutes and just enjoy a game and have fun with it. No, we didn't want to be mad at this too. We just wanted a place to play a game that we enjoyed, where we didn't feel like the people that made that game weren't trying to fuck us, because everything else in the world has been doing a really good job at trying to fuck all of us with just out any remorse or consent. So no, we don't want the people that are supposed to be making our lives just a little bit better trying to fuck us as well. There's a reason why not a lot of us like EA, not a lot of us like Activision, not a lot of us like Blizzard. Why? Because they have been nothing but trying to fuck us when they're supposed to try to make our lives better, and we're supposed to give them money, a reasonable amount of money, where they do very well on and make a lot of it. Ask Andrew Wilson how many millions he has in the bank account. You know, So yeah, if we're hot, if we're heated, if we're pissed, it's because we're just kind of tired of being constantly screwed over, and we just want to relax, unwind, unplug, and just for a little while have fun. That's it. But they didn't hear that. This is what they heard instead. Access to the PvE mode with persistent progression. This was starting waves. This is much like what they did with Arena, so not surprised. This plan starts tomorrow, which is great. It's good. I'm glad that they're finally jumping on this. Obviously, access given out in waves. It's the same thing they did with Arena for the same reason that they had to do it with Arena, is that they really assumed it was going to be a lot smaller player base for whatever reason, because they never intended to give us Arena, even though Arena was DLC, and they never intended to give us PvE because PvE wasn't apparently DLC in their eyes, even though it is. And this clearly puts it out that yes, this is DLC. Faster insurance returns. I don't think that that's a huge game changer one way or the other. I don't think that's an issue. It seems unnecessary, but it's fine. I know it's fine. Personally, I kind of don't really want it, because sometimes, especially late in the wipe, I actually use my insurance return as like a pseudo stash, and sometimes I get stuff in there for a little while. I kind of actually wouldn't mind it hanging out in the ether just a little while longer before I have to put it on a timer and worry about it, but you know, that's fine. That's whatever. Personal trader purchase limits. This is dumb. This is pay to win. I do not want this. Nobody in the community wants this. Why should I get access to 20 more out of 100 bullets than a guy who bought the basic edition? Why can I get 120 and he can only get 100? That doesn't make sense. Why? Because I could afford something that he couldn't, so I deserve better? No. That's not what we want, BSG. We do not want these kind of mechanics in our game. None of us who have spent the extra money to support you wants that support to be translated into unfair advantages. All right, this isn't a 1%er situation here. None of us wants to be the people at the top screwing over the people on the bottom. We all want to be fucking equal. When it comes to game mechanics and game balancing, we all want to be on the same footing, whether it's in the hideout or in the traders or in the raid. This is unacceptable. Increase starting PMC karma. No, get rid of this. You guys couldn't get scav karma to work right. What makes you think you're going to get PMC karma, which is way more nuanced, way harder to balance, and you have struggled bust like forever and a day with scav karma? How you think this is ever going to be a thing is beyond me. Got nothing. Access to a special stimulant craft. I hate the fact that there's no information on this. There's no information on this anywhere else. So whatever this is, only EOD people get it. Nobody else does. And it doesn't specify what stimulant. So are we going to get a rare, only EOD people can craft stimulant that nobody else in the game can get? It doesn't tell me that. You know, would I be able to craft, Ododobos 2? Would I be able to craft, so one of the stimulants that we have in game that we just don't have a craft for? I'm not thrilled about that. Again, I don't like having access to something that nobody else is going to have access to simply because I could afford something that they couldn't. I don't like this. I want this to be a quest. Make this quest related and that everybody gets that quest. Or make this quest related, but I, as an EOD, will have access to this immediately, but everybody else will have a quest that will allow them to have the same stimulant. I'm fine with that because it's balanced. Like, yes, I spent a little extra money for the privilege of being able to make that stimulant earlier, granted, but it's not exclusive. It's not just for me to have. Everybody else, once they get to that point, can make it. I'll be honest with you, I still feel even a little scummy saying that because it still feels a little pay to win, but I would rather a situation be access for everybody than only access for one person. And I would much rather everyone get the opportunity, even if that means if you buy a higher tier version, you get earlier access to it. Everyone at least still gets it. Increased skill, charisma skill level. I mean, that just puts more rubles in my pocket. It just helps me with traders. It's an advantage that, again, I don't think I should have. Nobody else is going to get, but I also think in terms of rubles, it's not going to be that much. But again, my principle stands. Nostalgia quest line. No, absolutely not. We should not ever be gatekeeping quests behind what edition you purchased. There was just a game recently that caused a lot of controversy for this exact same thing. I think it was the new Star Wars Survivors game, where they literally gatekept the quest behind what edition of the game you bought. Yeah, it was a hut quest. Yeah, that was it. It was the new Star Wars game that's coming out, and there's a hut based quest that you cannot play unless you buy the premium top tier edition of the game. Don't do this. This is bad. This just makes people bitter. It just pisses people off. Why do I get to play 100% of the game if everyone else is only going to get 99%? I'm not special that way. That should not happen. This needs to be for everybody. Period. Just everybody. Everyone should have that. Unique PMC dog tag, I think that's fine. It identifies me as being an Edge of Darkness user. I think that's fine. It's cosmetic too. It has no immediate impact on anybody. I think that's great. Unique armband, another thing I think is really cool. I'm fine with that. It's cosmetic, hurts nothing. Legacy device, I don't like this. Everyone gets access to it. Obviously, it looks like EOD users will get access to it first. We can call in a friendly BTR. Once called, the item will go into cooldown. It doesn't specify how long the cooldown is, so can I call it multiple times in the same raid? What if I call a BTR in a raid that has a BTR, like Woods or Streets? Do I call the map's BTR to me, or do I call in a second BTR to me? And how does that affect if one of the BTRs is aggroed? Will they blow each other up? Will they fight each other? And what happens if that happens? And I mean, and how many people can call in a BTR? You know, I mean, if you have 4 or 5 people on the map with BTR, is it going to be like airdrops where you only get 1 BTR at a time and first come first serve? I mean, that would make sense, but then, I mean, you see what I'm saying? Like, there's a lot of question marks but not a lot of answers. I mean, I'm glad that everyone will eventually have access to this item, but that's still there's just so many questions about how this works balance wise that it could be kind of game breaking. To be honest with you, it has that potential. So I don't think in general this is just not even a good item to even have in the game. I think having BTRs in the game as like this autonomous source that just it does its own thing. It's ran by a completely separate group who just have their own motivations. They're not in it for anyone but themselves. They're just going to who's ever going to pay them. I think it's fair. It gives everyone access. It treats everyone equally, and it's a good mechanic as it is now. To turn the BTR into something that you can call like Fido to your aid is just not something that's good to me. Unique PMC upper clothing, lower clothing, I think that's totally fine. Again, cosmetic, has no actual effect. Ability to replace 2 daily tasks. Well, if you don't replace those tasks, then you would just end up doing those tasks. It washes out. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I think that's totally fine. Ability to change nickname, icon, and color. I think this has to do with people who had EOD, so they had like the gold crown and stuff, and then maybe they bought the Unheard Edition upgrade, which it changed their icon to Unheard Of, and maybe they didn't want the Unheard Of icon showing. It may have had to do with the fact that cheaters were specifically saying that they were targeting people who had Unheard Of accounts, and that may only show if you're displaying the icon for the Unheard Of account. So when a cheater looks at you, they may see just like whatever the icon is that you have rocking. So if they can turn it to EOD icon, then you're displaying yourself as an EOD owner and not as a Unheard Of owner, and so the cheaters will likely not bother you because they're targeting Unheard Of edition owners specifically right now. So this actually might have been more done to try to get people to not show their Unheard Of edition owners so that the cheaters won't target them, because BSG has no answer for cheaters. For all the players that all have basically every other edition but EOD or unheard of, they're going to get increased stash sizes. I think that's great. I'm totally fine with that. I think everyone should have at least a kit or two always ready to go. It just helps eliminate gear fear. It makes people want to get into raids. If you feel more secure if you know you have gear back at the hideout to back you up. But especially in the smaller versions of the game, the stash is really small, and it's hard to try to get all the items you need to like upgrade your hideout, and then at the same time hold on to like a couple of vests of armor and backpacks and guns that you would need to take out into the raid. Things get jammed up really quickly, so a little bit extra storage lines I think actually could reduce a lot of anxiety for players and make them feel a lot more comfortable about getting into the raid. I think that's great. Ability to purchase PvE modes separately without having to upgrade to the full Unheard of edition. They can just buy PvE. Once again, I think this, again, although it's completely contrary to what BSG said DLC is, I think this paints it out specifically in their mind that this is DLC. They're selling it separately. This to me is going to be bare bottom basement of what is going to be defined in this game as DLC. I think they are stating it now. This is DLC, and this is going to be the bare minimum level of qualification for DLC going forward. That's just my feeling on it. Anyways, moving on, Unheard Edition owners, they're going to get a unique item called Market of the Unheard. No idea what it is, no idea what it does, and apparently you can only use it in PvE, which is weird. They're going to give, I don't know why you bothered to make an item for only PvE, but I'm going to guess that it wasn't always meant to be PvE. My guess is it was meant to be for PvP as well, except for it's probably either horrendously underbalanced or it's just completely broken, and there's no way that they could balance it in a good way on a PvE PvP server. But Nikita is a toddler, and if he thinks, ooh, that's cool, he's going to want to keep it in the game, whether it makes sense or not. So this is probably something where he kind of like probably stamped his foot down and was like, no, we're not getting rid of it. I think that's cool. I want to keep it. And so that's probably all that's happening. And it's probably stupid. I'll be honest with you. I think it's probably stupid because they don't even tell you what it is. So it's probably really dumb. Unique item, distress signal device. This has been a huge area of controversy for a lot of players. This basically allows you to call in anybody from your friends list. You basically set this off. It sets a message to every single person on your friends list, which is obnoxious. Like imagine you had, imagine like you could just hit something and it could ping every single person on your Discord friends list, like at once. I mean, could you imagine how many people would be pissed off at you that they're just trying to do your shit and all of a sudden they're getting some message like just randomly pops up from you, and every time you use this device you're gonna get that message because you can't pick and choose what friends you're like, hey, come and help me. It literally like sends out an SOS to like every single person on your friends list. Do you know how many streamers have like friends lists that are probably in the hundreds, and every single like BSG will probably, Tarkov will probably crash the first time more than 2 people use that system at the same time, as it's literally trying to ping like thousands of players at once. And then imagine the server overload where all of these people are trying to get into raids that are already ongoing as PMCs. And by the way, how does this affect PMC limit? What if your buddy who sent off that message, hey, I need help, is in a full raid with say 11 other people? They've reached the 12 max for that map. So what? Do you get to come in and your friends be 13, 14, and 15? Like does the actual number not actually mean anything? Like, have there been more players in the map before and we never knew it because you said only so many players would be in the map? Or do you have it designed to it kicks off once so many players have hit that number, but in reality you could go over that number and it would still work just fine? Because then it makes me sometimes think maybe that has happened, and maybe when we've had some of these really super rare raids where it seems like every time we turn a corner there's a PMC like literally with a gun barrel in my face, that maybe it's not bad luck, but maybe there was just a lot more actual players in the map than there should have been because something got screwed up during matchmaking, because there isn't an actual limit, it's just a basically if when or if then statement to go back to my basic programming days. If player count is above 9, start raid. And if anybody manages to get in before that time period, I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing, but it just seems weird to me that we have an active item that could potentially put more PMCs into a match than is actually even allowed. And how's that going to affect performance? And what happens if 2 or 3 players in the same raid use that device? How is that going to affect how many more PMCs get brought in? Could we have a raid that's supposed to have a max 12 players end up with 20 players? And how's that going to affect performance? Like, you know, is suddenly somebody who's not playing solo or a duo, who has nothing to do with the shenanigans, suddenly have their entire experience just ruined because there's suddenly 20 PMCs on this map because a whole bunch of them, 8 more people got called in because of this device? You see what I'm saying? There's no explanation for how this works. So all you can think of is all of the ways it can just break this game. And that's why it should not be in here. It does not serve a purpose. Yes, calling for reinforcements is very realistic, but realistic and good gameplay don't always go hand in hand. Immersion in gameplay should always be your focus, because sometimes realism sounds good, but it actually makes for a really awful experience. And this is one of those situations where it can make for a really awful experience. The other thing we have here is we have a $50 coupon for the Escape from Tarkov. Basically, if you upgraded the game at the full price, and then they cut down the price, it's now $50. They were giving you an edition of the game for free, but everyone was like, nope, fuck you, we don't want another version of the game. We didn't buy this to get 3 copies or 2 copies or whatever. A lot of people were asking for their money back. BSG didn't want to give them their money back, so BSG said, hey, we're going to give you a $50 credit and you can use it to buy a stash upgrade or expansions or put it for future DLC. Basically a standard corp way of keeping people in the mix. Access to Escape from Tarkov Arena. I wasn't even aware that they didn't have access to Arena. I assumed that the Unheard of Edition had Arena. I'm shocked to find out that they didn't. That's crazy to me, because generally speaking, when you have a version of the game that's supposed to be the next biggest and baddest, and it costs, I don't know, $250 fucking dollars, that it comes with all previous DLC. Because the reason why you buy those big editions, those big ticket editions, is because it's supposed to have you jump into the game at the same place with everybody else that has everything available. You're supposed to be right there in it, and the fact that they didn't have Arena is shocking to me. That's holy fuck. Cultist jacket, it's cosmetic, I don't care. We've been asking for Sturman's jacket, but Cultist is cool. Unique dog tag, same thing. Icon change, same thing, don't care. Everyone, as I mentioned before, they're going to get access to the Mark of the Unheard and a digital thing. And then all of the other, they'll also get the legacy device. They're also going to get one, instead of the 2 that EOD gets, everyone will get 1 freely daily skip. There's going to be no more ping limit for PvE. This is great. It's going to allow people to play with their friends or all over the world and not have to worry about ping limits stopping them from playing, because they're only fighting AI. So, no lag or anything like that they have to worry about, which I think is really good. No desync to have to worry about with other PvP fighting, because it's not going to be there. So I think that's great. I mean, everything else, everyone else but Unheard of, like I mentioned, they're going to get this, but they're also going to get the expanded pockets through. Now, I like this. They're going to get the PMC expanded 2-slot pockets through an in-game quest. I think that's awesome. I think that's great. That's how we should do it. If you buy a better edition and you get something like a little bit of a pocket bump, something like that, making it available to everybody just having to complete a quest instead of shelling out the money is a fair and reasonable accommodation. I think that's fine. I'm okay with that. Again, I just want to avoid the pay to win shit, because as you see, nobody else is getting a bump in the global values. Nobody else got to buy more stuff. Only people with EOD got that, and I don't think that's fair. All in all, I think this is not really that good. To be honest, there's a lot of stuff in here we did not want. There's a lot of stuff in here that's not explained. It feels just very much like, instead of listening to us and actually working with us and actually, listening to what our concerns are and actually addressing them with us and working together as a community, this feels like BSG just wants to keep trying to now just throw more and more and more at us and be like, we're giving you everything you want. Aren't you happy now? And it's like, well, no, because you're giving us stuff we never asked for. We didn't want all of this stuff. So no, you don't, please don't. So I don't think they're listening. I think they're just trying to appease us, and that's not the same as actively listening to your community. And the other thing that I think, in my personal opinion, that's really stupid about this is that in all of this, BSG probably is going to lose more money than it would have cost to just do everything right the first time. And it would probably made them more money to do everything right the first time. Now they're going to have to pay people to do all this shit. And that's not going to be cheap. And it's going to cost them money. It's going to probably cost them more. So ultimately, at the end of the day, trying to be sneaky and sly and make a quick buck has actually probably ended up costing them more money. And let this be a lesson to BSG. Let this be a lesson to every other game company out there. We as a gaming community are done and we are tired, and we're going to be out after this, guys, but I just want to say this. We're done. We're done with the abuse. We're done with you guys picking our pockets. We're done. We are going to fight you now. Every time you guys rip us off, we're going to make a stink. Every time you go to overcharge us, we're going to rise up. Every single time that we do this kind of stuff, we are going to fight. It is, we are done shelling out money for half-finished products that just are absolutely garbage. We will continue to support good companies. We will continue to support small devs that actually make good games. But in terms of this kind of shit and this kind of treatment, we are not going to deal with it anymore. Now, I do want to point out here, I mentioned earlier at the bottom that, it's the whole dev team thing, and I thought it was very passive aggressive, and it wasn't from Nikita. I am aware this has come from Nikita's official Reddit account, so I get that this was Nikita's, Nikita probably I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. He probably penned this. This wasn't some intern that did this. I'm going to give him the benefit of the doubt. At the end of the day, I still really wish he had just taken the chance to just man up and put his own name down. As a leader, that's what you do. All right, that's it. We're done for today, though. I'm gonna get off my soapbox. Appreciate you guys checking me out. Subscribe, like, follow, do all that stuff. Come check me out on Twitch. I'm also over on TikTok underneath RH Galloway. It's easy enough to find me. I have links all over the place. Also, go check me out on my Twitter because I refuse to call it X. Again, I appreciate you guys' time. Thank you so much, and have a good one.